This single gunshot killed not only that soldier, but also struck down his entire family, and his parents, from that moment on, became the people Hitler feared the most.
Victory over France! Instant surrender!
The date was June 22, 1940, and this was without question the most triumphant and arrogant moment of Nazi Germany. After the Blitzkrieg swept across half of Europe, it forced the hardline French to sign a humiliating surrender. On the streets of Berlin, even children were celebrating the victory over France, as the entire nation descended into collective frenzy. But for the Otto couple, this day marked the darkest moment of their lives. After breakfast, Otto prepared to go to work as usual, only to be stopped at the door by the mail carrier. A letter from the military was placed into his hands. Slightly confused, Otto did not open it and instead passed it to his wife, Anna. The moment Anna opened the letter, she completely collapsed, because what she saw was not a message of victory, but a cold and final notice of death.
Those liars!
Yes, the soldier struck by a stray bullet at the beginning of the story was their only son.
You are to blame, you and your damn war, you and your damn Führer!
Seeing his wife overcome with grief, Otto stepped forward to comfort her, but Anna refused. At that moment, she only wanted to be alone, and Otto, weighed down by sorrow, stepped out of the house with heavy footsteps. It was obvious that both of them were desperately holding themselves together, trying not to let their grief and anger spill over, because on a nationwide day of manic celebration, within a totalitarian and oppressive society, any improper emotional release would be seen as betrayal. Yet the way Otto clutched the handrail as he left was still noticed by the mailwoman behind him, because they knew each other well, and she could almost certainly guess the contents of that letter. Her kindness made her stay behind to prevent anything tragic. No one could have imagined that this thin piece of paper would become the spark that led the couple to declare war on the Nazis, and turn them into the people Hitler feared most. On the bus to the factory, although Otto was drowning in the pain of losing his son, he stared blankly out the window like a machine, because around him were not only citizens overflowing with excitement and celebrating victory, but also police officers watching closely for any sign of dissent. He had hoped to bury himself and work to dull the pain inside, but the glaring recruitment posters on the workshop walls only deepened his hatred, so he hastily arranged his tasks and left. Meanwhile, at home alone, Anna trembled as she pieced together the torn fragments of the death notice, because this was the only remaining bond she had with her son in heaven. Even though acknowledging the pain of losing her child felt like enduring punishment, those shattered scraps of paper were still carefully smoothed and treasured by her. Unable to escape her grief, Anna then stepped outside, hoping to ease the pain in her heart, but the streets full of people immersed in victory and joy only continued to stab at her emotions, so much so that a distraught Anna completely forgot why she had come out in the first place.
Frau Krange, how much butter do you need? Half a pound, your usual?
Oh, come on! Hurry on!
On the street, the emotionally overwhelmed Anna was fortunately spotted by the mailwoman, who brought her safely back home. That night, Otto sat alone in his room, flipping through the books his son had once read, as if he were gently touching his son's face. Gradually, his gaze grew firm. This usually quiet and reserved man was no longer burning with anger, but with a resolve to change everything. He then took a postcard with the leader's image that had been tucked inside a book and altered it, turning the figure into a liar. But early the next morning, Otto still ate a simple breakfast as usual, greeted his wife, and went to work. Just as he stepped out of the apartment building, he was harassed by a fanatical supporter.
What's the hurry? Is something wrong? We're going to get rich. A victory over France. Know what that means? We're going to be the richest country in the whole world.
Otto walked away without even turning his head, as if nothing had happened at all. When he arrived at the factory, before the workshop had even started operating, Otto saw a military representative stirring up the workers. Everyone was shouting slogans in praise of war, and all the workers were swept into an unconscious frenzy.
Sieg Heil!
Sieg Heil!
Workers! Does anyone have anything to say?
After the party members believed they had fully controlled the atmosphere, they put on a show and pretended to ask for opinions. Unexpectedly, Otto, sitting in the back row, raised his hand to speak. What no one anticipated was that Otto spoke forcefully, stating that if production was to increase, beyond adding more machines, the most important thing was to dismiss those who talked endlessly about politics yet constantly avoided real work. Before his words had even settled, he was immediately attacked by the party members, and even some hot-headed co-workers joined in.
Wrangel only thinks of himself. Do you donate anything to the Winter Relief Fund and to the Führer?
Germany has taken my only son. Yesterday I was informed he died in combat for you, for the Führer. I ask you, Dolphus, what more can a man donate than his child?
After all, see what sacrifice could be greater than giving one's son to the state. Otto's response instantly silenced all the workers. Soon after, the intense production campaign moved forward at full speed. Not long afterward, the strange behavior of a co-worker operating a power saw caught Otto's attention. He hesitated repeatedly, as if he were testing something. As a seasoned mechanical worker, Otto immediately sensed that something was about to happen, but before he could step forward to see what was going on, a tragedy occurred. Losing the index finger of his right hand meant he would naturally avoid military service. At the moment Otto was helping bandage his co-worker's wound, he suddenly realized how similar they were, both lonely resistors standing apart from the party crowds, except that this man had chosen self-harm as his way. At the same time, his wife Anna continued her work with the Nazi women's organization. That day, her task was to urge the family of a lieutenant colonel to participate in national construction. When her colleagues harshly scolded the woman, Anna saw only deep worry in her eyes, as her husband was fighting on the front lines, with his fate unknown. Seeing this, Anna's heart trembled, as if she were looking at herself when she had once hoped for her son's return from the battlefield. In the end, Anna could not bring herself to continue this cruel persuasion and quietly turned away. That night, Otto once again sank into deep thought, recalling the suffocating scenes from the factory during the day. He truly could not understand what had happened to this country. Why were people shrouded in fear and lies so willing to turn themselves into gears of the Nazi war machine, knowing that refusal meant becoming a public enemy? In pain, Otto struggled to find an answer. After calming himself for a moment, he took out an unfinished sculpture. This had originally been a gift for his son, but now it had become frozen in time. As he touched the face of the sculpture, Otto felt his longing for his lost son grow even deeper. Carrying unbearable grief, Otto made up his mind to do something. He wanted to expose all of this. He wanted to reveal the truth about how the Nazis used lies to cover up the brutality of war. He decided to turn the pain of losing his son into a blade that would pierce through deception. He swore that no matter the cost, he would try to stop the rampage of the war machine. So he instructed his wife Anna not to open the door for anyone, then took a stack of cards and locked himself in the room. He began writing on the cards, accusing the Nazis of their crimes.
I'm writing cards that tell the truth. People will read these cards.
To conceal his identity, Otto deliberately disguised his handwriting. Watching her husband charge forward without hesitation into such danger, Anna wanted to stop him, yet she held her words back. Perhaps the anti-government words written on those cards were also the true voice of her own heart. But the next morning, Anna suddenly stopped Otto just as he was about to leave. This was not because she had changed her mind, but because she had decided to fight alongside him.
No, I'm coming with you. You can't stop me. You can't stop me.
They hang you. They hang women too.
Of course they do.
Anna said firmly that she knew they would certainly hang a woman, but she no longer cared. Seeing the determination in his wife's eyes, Otto had no reason left to refuse her. The couple then walked out of their home hand in hand. At that moment, neither of them realized that from the very step they took, they had set foot on a road of no return. They moved through several streets, avoided police inspections on the main roads, and finally chose an office building crowded with people. Otto asked Anna to wait downstairs, but instead of taking the elevator, he climbed the stairs on foot. This allowed him to observe the surroundings more carefully and find the most suitable places to leave the cards. At last, he placed the first card on the stairwell. They then quickly left the area and entered a riverside cafe, each ordering a strong drink, for their son, and for the truth. At this moment they once again chose to move forward without hesitation.
So, we begin. From now on we are alone.
The husband and wife looked into each other's eyes. With the release of their first card, a storm meant to awaken sleeping souls was about to take shape in the very heart of Nazi power. From that day on, Otto accused the Nazis of hypocrisy and evil on cards almost every single day. As time passed, not only did the number of cards grow larger, but their content also became increasingly profound. Whenever he ran out of cards, he immediately replaced them. In the end, he scattered these cards throughout every corner of Berlin. They appeared on factory walls, tram seats, apartment hallways, and restroom windowsills. Before long, this undercurrent of anti-government messages caught the attention of the Nazi authorities, spreading fear among them. Eventually, Police Inspector Escherichs took personal charge of the case and formed a special task force named after the mischief maker. Seasoned and methodical, Escherichs soon noticed key patterns after reviewing the case. Among the submitted cards, one crucial message appeared again and again: "The leader killed my son." This gave Escherichs the basic direction for solving the case.
I'd investigate everyone in Berlin who has lost a son within the last 2 weeks.
Why?
The Führer murdered my son. There's only one son.
At the same time, Escherichs firmly believed that more people would continue turning in newly found cards. All he needed to do now was keep collecting clues and wait for this mischief maker to make a mistake. Escherichs was full of confidence. What he did not expect was that Otto was equally confident at this point. During the day, Otto remained in the workshop like an ordinary worker, but all his strength was poured into this silent accusation. Meanwhile, Anna, due to emotional instability, offended those in power at work and was dismissed from the Nazi women's organization, after which she devoted herself fully to supporting Otto. From then on, Otto's actions grew increasingly bold. Before long, on Escherich's map board, every district where cards had been found was marked with a flag. Yet his opponent, the so-called mischief maker, still refused to surface. It was not until one night half a year later, during the couple's final card placement of the day, that an accident occurred.
What are you doing here? Stop! Stop! Wait! Who are you?
Please, can you help me? I need to find a shelter for mothers and children. I've lost my way. My daughter is waiting for me there.
Although Otto ultimately managed to escape with Anna's help, the failure of this operation provided Escherichs with a direct investigative lead. Based on information from informants, Otto's basic profile was sketched out. As the situation escalated, the SS was eventually forced to intervene directly. Inside the police station, Escherichs was rendered speechless under the questioning of a colonel.
How many?
He also includes the eastern districts and downtown. Here, look.
I ask you a question, Eschrich. How many?
127, Standartenführer. 129 to be exact, with these two from this morning.
More than 100. If more than 100 cards were turned in here, doesn't any one of you wise asses ever think about how much filth is still circulating out there?
With due respect.
Tell me who's been doing this, because I will be asked, and I have to answer. Now.
Meanwhile, under dim lighting, Otto and his wife were tirelessly copying cards. This time, what they sought to expose were the lies surrounding the Battle of Stalingrad, revealing the truth that had been hidden from the people. Otto said firmly to Anna that this was like a grain of sand in a gear. It would not stop the machine at once, but if sand kept being thrown in, the engine would be affected, and in the end, the entire assembly line would grind to a halt. At this very moment, the couple had no idea that the police, guided by the sketch, were about to launch a citywide manhunt. As a professional police officer, Escherichs extracted the key core information from numerous clues and formed a psychological profile. The suspect was a middle-aged man. His only son had died. His handwriting was poor. He had some education, was familiar with machinery, traveled back and forth along fixed routes, and never committed acts on the same street twice in a row. That day, the police station suddenly received a coordination report, and the suspect had been captured. At the same time, Anna, who was bringing Otto his lunch, discovered that Otto had not shown up for work. Sensing something was wrong, Anna rushed home, and the scene she feared most did indeed appear. Just as Anna felt on the verge of collapse, a hand suddenly stopped her. It was Otto. It turned out to be a misunderstanding. After this incident, the couple felt a flood of mixed emotions. They realized it was a warning, because the man taken away was the male woman's former husband, Kluge. They lived nearby, knew each other well, and it was easy for connections to be drawn. Fortunately, after only a brief questioning, Escherichs cleared Kluge of suspicion, because he did not match the profile of the suspect at all. However, when Escherichs reported this upward, his confident attitude angered the SS colonel. In truth, he only wanted a basic level of respect for professional police work, but before he could finish speaking, the colonel's fist came swinging down. Escherichs was ordered to resolve the case within 2 days and was then thrown out by the guards. Only when he hit the ground did Escherichs suddenly understand that in the eyes of the SS, the outcome of the case mattered far more than any process. After that, Escherichs managed to find the male woman and brutally forced her to reveal her former husband's hiding place. When he met Kluge again, Escherichs got straight to the point.
I know you've nothing to do with the cards, I know.
Oh, that's good news, Inspector.
But the guys from the SS think it was you. And I'm afraid they're in charge now. In charge of me too. They will arrest you. They will interrogate you. In their own way.
I'd rather be dead.
You're right.
The reality of it was deeply tragic. An ex-wife ran through the streets every day delivering war news for the Nazis. The ex-husband had sent 2 sons to the battlefield for the country, and in the end not only became a vagrant, but also a sacrifice of Nazi political manipulation, in order to satisfy his superiors. As Cherich closed the case by claiming that Kluge died while fearing punishment, he then began concealing the truth from the colonel, falsely stating that no more cards were being turned in. But the truth was not like that. The Otto couple had never stopped fighting. That day, another person submitted a card, and as Cherich stared at it on his desk, his heart tightened with pain. Yet just as he was at a loss over how to face the SS colonel, the mischief maker who terrified the Nazi authorities exposed a fatal flaw himself. That day, Otto was filling in for someone else, and as he entered the workshop, he discovered that 2 cards had accidentally fallen from a torn pocket and landed in the most visible spot. When he saw a worker pick up the cards in confusion, Otto had no choice but to step forward and take them back. Since he was only filling in and still had a chance to blend in, he decided to make a desperate move. He then handed the cards to a party member and said they should be handled according to regulations.
It's quite something. Better take it to the management.
After receiving the report, Cherich quickly led a team to surround the factory workshop. 2 cards appearing at the same location could not be intentional placement. They could only have been dropped. Cherich was overjoyed. Now, all he had to do was check the roster of workers on duty one by one to immediately lock onto the suspect. But the result was a major disappointment. None of the workers on duty matched the profile of the mischief maker. When Cherich demanded to see the shift foreman, he discovered that the man was on leave due to a work injury, and the temporary replacement foreman was not listed on the roster. Once Otto's address was pulled up, all questions were instantly resolved. As Otto was summoned into the room, under Cherich's relieved gaze, he seemed to step straight out of the psychological profile, both unfamiliar and familiar at the same time.
Good morning, McFarlane.
Morning.
Anna was then arrested as an accomplice. At the police station, Otto was speechless in the face of undeniable facts, but he also learned a truth that pierced his heart. Of the 285 cards he had written, 267 had been reported by ordinary citizens and handed over to the police. Otto immediately stated that he was willing to confess to everything, clearly an attempt to protect Anna, but it was too late. Anna had already signed her confession. Cherich then reported to the SS, announcing that the mischief maker case had been solved. They raised their glasses together in celebration, and amid distorted laughter, smashed a glass against Otto's head. In court, the reunited couple met each other in tears. Anna gazed at Otto with boundless affection, unwilling to let her eyes leave his face for even a moment.
You know what will happen.
Yes,
It can't be changed.
I know. Otto, it doesn't matter.
In the end, they were found guilty and sentenced to death by beheading. Before the sentence was carried out, Cherich asked Otto if he had any final wish, and he answered without hesitation that he wanted cards and a pen. Yes, his fight would not end with the blade. The execution platform was only the beginning of his renewed struggle. On the Berlin map in the inspector's office, Cherich removed the flags marking the distribution of 276 cards one by one, as if his dignity as a professional police officer was collapsing with them.
I read all your cards, Hobgoblin. Yours and your wife's. I am the only person who read all of them.
After organizing the 276 cards, in the darkness, Cherich scattered them all into the air, with a single gunshot. The cards drifted down like snow amid the echoing sound. At that moment, he completed his transformation from executioner to Watcher of the Night, turning himself into the final grain of sand thrown into the Nazi machine. The film slowly comes to an end. The characters in this film were based on German workers Otto Hampel and Elise Lemmy. In 1940, after Elise's brother was killed in the French campaign, the couple handwrote more than 200 anti-Nazi cards and distributed them across Berlin for 2 years, before being executed in April 1943. To heighten the tragedy and dramatic tension, the film adapted the fallen brother into the couple's only son. From the perspective of ordinary German citizens, the film ultimately delivers a powerful indictment of that dark and sobering chapter of history. I'm a movie enthusiast. Subscribe to my channel. See you next time.